On a cold autumn day in New York, a boy named Peter was living his normal life. He was a student at a local university and had many friends, but everything changed suddenly when Peter received his first unknown call. Peter was studying in his bedroom when suddenly the phone rang. It was an unknown number. He answered it out of curiosity, but instead of a human voice, he heard only a strange, muffled voice on the other end. "Peter, I see you." Peter was scared and immediately hung up the call. He thought it might be a joke and ignored it. But the calls continued. Every night, at exactly the same time, Peter heard the voice of that evil spirit telling him, "Peter, you can't escape me." He gradually felt that he was being pressured and that the spirit that possessed him was giving him orders. On the first day, Peter suddenly woke up from his sleep and felt that something was forcing him to self-harm. He stabbed his hand with a knife that was on the table, and from that moment on, the pain and bleeding began. He could not explain why he had done this. The only voice in his mind was the voice of the evil spirit saying, "This is the only way to save you." On the second day, Peter was extremely worried. He tried to avoid the calls, but the spirit kept coming closer to him. He heard the call again at night, and this time the spirit said to him, "Now it's your leg's turn." Peter looked at his legs in horror and suddenly felt that he was losing control of his body. He stabbed his legs and injured himself again. The pain and fear drove him to the brink of madness. By the third day, Peter was deeply depressed and anxious. He could no longer sleep or go about his normal life. The calls continued, and the evil spirit kept telling him, "You can't escape. The only way to escape this pain is to end it all." In a terrifying decision, Peter went to a tall building in the middle of New York City. He stood at the top of the building and looked down. The spirit's voice echoed in his ears, "Your pain is over here." He couldn't take it anymore. In an instant, Peter threw himself off the building. His fall ended in a horrific way. When his body hit the ground, people in the streets screamed and looked at him in horror. Peter died a horrible death, and the evil spirit that had possessed him slowly moved away. From that day on, the story of Peter and his cursed calls spread among the people of the city. Anyone who approached the building at night could hear his moans, and no one dared to approach. Peter's spirit remained there, searching for new victims every night to drive them to self-harm and madness.